Now that we understand the guitar is a 5-string instrument and not a 6-string instrument, and how things work chronologically, now we can understand where the circle of fifths comes from and where our scales come from. Now I have yet to find exactly where our chords come from. Okay? Our chord progression, our Every Good Boy Does face, right? Close. But what I can tell you is I have found where our scales come from and where our circle of fifths come from. So if we go chronologically, if we do 1, we go all the way up the fretboard. Or we can hop around the fretboard doing 1 note at a time. If we want to do a 2-note run, this is what we get. And if we do a 3-note run, A flat, A, B flat, and then we start over and we write it out, this is where the math, the book comes in. And if we do 4, this is what we get. And if we do 5, and so on. Until we get to 11, where we start chronologically going backwards, and then 12, repeating ourselves. Well, where does the circle of fifths come from? The circle of fifths comes from the 5th progression. Just as we should have a circle of sevenths, because it's backwards. What goes up must come down, right? Isn't that part of music? And if we look at it, we start seeing that diminished is everywhere. Diminished here, diminished there, diminished there, diminished here. Well, we got to look at it rather than left to right and up to down. We got to look at it at angles too. Okay? So now that we know where our circle of fifths comes from, and theoretically our circle of sevenths, what goes up must come down, where do we get our scales? Well, if we take the number 2 pattern, which, if we look at number 10, is the same as number 2, but backwards. Okay? A flat A, B flat B, C, D flat D, E flat E, A flat A, B flat B, C, D flat D, E flat E. If we take that progression and we run it all the way out for all our notes, okay? And we see we have diminished here, B, D, I. And we break it apart just like we do our chords so we can get our triads down to our diads. We can take and we notice C, D, E. And if we notice just below that, we have F, G, A, B. So what they have done is they have taken this part of it and they have slid it down 1 to give us our scales. Okay? And so, being that we know 2 is the same as 10, we get our scales from there. What goes up must come down. Just the same as circle of fifths should be the same as circle of sevenths. 3 and 9 give us our diminished. 1 is forward, 1 is backwards. Okay? So again, my issue is now is finding where did they get their chords from. I have an idea. It becomes a little more complex than just dropping part of this down to match and make it sound right. But you have to understand how beautiful this is, how long the string instruments have been around, and that their world was much different than our world. They had the time, they took the time to learn this, to break it down, as I have done to try to decipher music theory and the guitar, to know exactly how it works. How do you find it? How do you get here? And for years, I've had that tattoo. And can tell you that if we break things apart and find our patterns, that tattoo, which I broke down and put music into a little box. Any song you've ever heard or will hear is right here. But yet I couldn't fully explain it, and still can't, and will probably never fully understand it. But this will unlock doors. It is the key to understanding guitar and music in general.